Alright. Pride of Orange is dropped. Crank down the random number generator down to 18. See what we get. 1. Megaton-kyuu Musashi. This is some weird multimedia project that OLM is making. I think it's a mecha? Who knows? Let's give it a go.
Holy fuck, that was amazing! Okay, so I just finished all of Megaton-kyuu Musashi, which is basically an old school mech, but it was made in 2021. This show was so fucking fun and awesome and hype and let's get into it. Okay, so immediate comparisons to draw, I guess, would be to Getter Robo, probably. To be fair, I have not seen Getter Robo. I only have seen analysis of it and just general thoughts on it. I have not watched the show itself, but from the general aesthetic and such of what I know about Getter Robo, the vague bits that I know about it, this feels very much like baseline. The baseline of the series is Getter Robo, inspired by Getter Robo, but it pulls from so many other sources too. This is what mecha does. It's just so referential, and it just builds on itself constantly. Like, it's got a baseline of Getter Robo. It takes the new type concept from Gundam. There's stuff from Space Battleship Yamato, which isn't technically mecha, but it's like related with like the human-alien conflict. There's a potentially subtle reference to Evangelion in there. It's a really awesome pastiche of different mecha references and tropes. It's fucking awesome. It is so fucking hype watching this show. Like, I would say it essentially functions like a super robot show where these robots are basically magical. Like, they try to explain it with science, but it's basically magical. Like, I haven't seen enough super robot anime to say whether that's a common occurrence or not. But yeah. So, like, that's something I guess you should know going into this one is you kind of just have to accept that it's going to throw a bunch of concepts at you, and if your immediate reaction is not, that was fucking cool, maybe not the show for you. If you're sitting there constantly questioning, like, okay, well, how does that work? Okay, but how does that work? Probably not the show for you. I had a few of those moments myself, but most of the time it was very much carried by the hype of what was happening. Like, watching a giant meteor materialize out of thin air because of antimatter, I guess, and then a mech that is 1,000th the size of that meteor shoves that meteor through a battleship. Fucking cool. Okay. I am so high on the hype from this fucking show. And the characters kind of act like old school mecha characters as well. Again, this does not feel like a modern anime. The only thing that feels modern about it is like the color grading and like the animation quality. Like, otherwise this feels like a classic mecha anime. Like, the characters have that burning passion in them. At least the main character does, and he's also kind of insane a little bit too. What was the mecha that Go Nagai wrote? What was that one? The main Yamato, the main character in Megaton, reminds me a little bit of the main character from that one. I can't remember what it was called. Was that Grendizer? No, that was something else. Whatever. Yeah, mecha heads will know what I'm talking about. Do I have mecha heads in my audience? I hope I do. because I'm very much turning into one. This show is definitely turning me into one. I want to go back and rewatch some Gundam. I want to watch Get a Robo now. Fuck, that's pissing me off that I can't remember what that... Was it Giant Robo, I guess? I think that was the Go Nagai one. Well, let's assume it is. The main character, again, that's another show I haven't seen, but I only know vague things about. The main character kind of reminds me a little bit of the main character from that one. Actually, he reminds me a lot more of Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho in certain ways. Mostly in the punk kind of way, but mostly because he's paired up with like another punk who's even more like Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho, like this big fucking burly dude, but he's also like got like a heart of gold, and he's like very sensitive on the inside. He has a great arc with essentially his foster mother later in the series. It's not even an arc; it's like 5 minutes of an episode, but it's fucking great. The character writing is so filled with emotion and shouting your feelings at people. It's that kind of anime, and I fucking love it. It works so well here. Again, you have to go into this with the mindset of, like, this is not written like other anime that are being written right now. This is being written like something from the fucking 70s. I'm not saying that makes it a worse. I'm just saying it's a different writing style, so you gotta prep yourself for that writing style, because it is not like something you have seen before if you have not seen mecha anime from the 70s and 80s. It is very different. It took me, like, when I first watched the original Gundam series, it took me a little bit to adjust to how things were written back then. But that's another thing I have to rewatch. I really want to rewatch that. But, oh yeah, this is such a fun series. It's got fucking there's a little bit of combining mech stuff in here. There's like shared pilots sharing a mech at some point, and like the pilots have to work together. Like I fucking love it. As soon as I knew that there was a mech that needed 2 pilots, and I saw the 2 characters that fucking hate each other, I'm like, oh, they're going to put them in the mech suit together. And that's what happened. And it was awesome. But yeah, all the characters in this are super fun. Extremely tropey in the best ways. But also just really fucking weird. One of them basically has, like, to quote the show, mental disabilities. But, by the way, there's only like one person who's subbing. This is like fan subs for this show, because it didn't get picked up by any official licensor, so it got subbed, so it had a fan sub. Just as a warning, it is that kind of fan subs where I boot up the first episode, and the subtitler decided that the first line out of the main character's mouth should be, "Who the fuck are you?" So immediately I'm like, oh, it's gonna be these kind of fan subs. And for some reason, just gonna throw it out there, they decided to subtitle the word baka, which we all know is idiot. They decided to subtitle it as retard for the entire show. So, little not great, but they're the only ones subtitling this show, so we kind of have to live with it. Just know that there are a little bit of fan sub liberties taken with this one. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, but the characters are so fucking insane in this show. There's this one girl who basically acts like an idol, and she's super cute. There's like a judo girl. There's an android who is basically like designed to reduce the stress of the human population, and so he becomes a target of bullying. Wild. Like, one of the main characters fucks the commander at some point. Yeah, there's fucking in this show. Only one scene, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, hell yeah! Hell yeah, my dude! Oh, I'm so fucking hyped from this show. But I gotta say, the most unexpected part for me, and probably the best, one of my favorite parts, if you know what I like about anime, is there's kind of a Romeo and Juliet plot line in this. Like, the princess of the invading alien kingdom at first is trying to assassinate, like, potential pilots for these mech suits, but she eventually falls in love with Yamato, the main character. Her name's Arsham, and she's the best. She's exactly what that archetype sounds like. And, like, they slowly just grow closer to each other over the course of the series. They have, like, this date montage that's super fucking cute and awesome. And I love her. And that's why I was very anxious about the end of this season. And I say season because I completely forgot that they had already announced the second season for this, which is going to air fall of 2022, which is this year. God, I have to wait fucking 8 months for more of this? Damn. Fuck me. Where was I? Oh, but knowing what I know about old mecha, as soon as I saw, like, this romance building, I was like, oh no, this is going to have a bittersweet ending, isn't it? Oh no, I'm not going to be able to deal with that. My heart will break. Fortunately, it doesn't go as bitter as I thought it would, because again, there's still a second season. Gives me hope. It gives me hope. But they do end up separated at the end of this season, so I'm very excited to see how they eventually get back together. And there's some really interesting, like, politics shit going on through all this. There's so many fucking interesting themes that it touches on, like just how we cope with loss, how memory shapes the human experience. It's very brutal in not just its combat. Well, the combat's not super bloody. Like, it does show its the necessary stuff when it is necessary, but most of the time it's just big explosions, and they're mostly cool explosions. It's not a full CG series, but all the mechs are in CG, so that's a little disappointing. But they have some really great choreography with the mech fights, so I'm not super beat up about that. And the mech designs are pretty cool. What was I talking about? I keep getting distracted by all the shit to talk about in this series. I completely forgot what my train of thought was. Let's move on to something else. The soundtrack. Soundtrack was fucking awesome. Has these big, bombastic orchestral numbers, but what stuck out to me the most, aside from the insert songs, was that there are a lot of tracks where it's just like a solo singer. Very haunting in those moments, and just fucking good shit. Really heightens the emotional weight of those moments where that vocal kicks in. Yeah, I fucking love this show. This is another dark horse of the year. This is easily the dark horse of the season. There's like only like 1,000 or so people on Mal that have this listed as completed. So yeah, this was fucking awesome. I cannot wait to see more of this later this year. Again, if you don't have experience with old mecha, it's gonna be a weird watch for you, but I fucking love this show, and I would recommend it. So, now I gotta figure out where to put it on the list.
Alright, this is definitely going to be my hottest take of the season, probably, but we're going to put Megaton-kyuu Musashi right in here, right on the edge of my top 10. We're going to give it a decent 8. I fucking really liked that show. Yeah. I can't wait for season 2. Anyway, let's see what's next. I was gonna say in the last thing that there's only a couple more shows in here that I think I'm actually going to finish, but then fucking Megaton happened, so who even knows at this point. But in any case, we got 17 shows left. Let's see what's next. One again. Deji Meets Girl. This one's a short series, I think, so let's try and knock it out tonight. It's a little late, but let's go for it.
Alright, I just watched all of Deji Meets Girl, which was probably the easiest watch of the season, purely by virtue of time spent on it, because these are only 2-minute episodes. So, even with all the EDs, even with the ED added on, so like the actual episode proper are like a minute and a half, and then it's got a 30-second ED. So, like, even with all that together, it's only 24 minutes total. So, literally, the entire series is the length of one regular anime episode. And it was pretty decent. It was a fun little ride about a pop star running away to Okinawa because of his career problems, and a hostess at a hotel or something. I don't know what her job is. A receptionist, I guess, at a hotel helps him work through his problems, and weird supernatural shenanigans occur to represent each of his problems throughout the series. And I didn't realize until at the end that the supernatural bits do kind of have some interesting symbolism to them. Like him seeing a bunch of just fish floating around in front of his face is like the problem shoving itself in his face, and he's like being annoyed by it. The giant plant overgrowth is like the problem overgrowing in his mind and just completely encasing him in his feeling. The paused sunset where the sun never sets even though it's at like midnight is kind of like he wishes that he could just stay in Okinawa forever and just keep avoiding his problems. So it's got some interesting narrative symbolism going on there. But I think the visuals are definitely the biggest draw of this series. It's got some really great color design. Just this really nice, vibrant tropical color palette on some really cool animation work. The character designs have these kind of rough, thick outlines to them. This is definitely one of the better animated like TV shorts, or what's the word to describe it? Seasonal web. What's called a seasonal web short? Because like, there's a difference between like a web short where it's just a series of shorts that just get put out sporadically whenever, like with a lot of Pokemon stuff, and web shorts where it is like on a weekly basis, week to week, and the week to week ones tend to be pretty lackluster in my experience, but this is definitely one of the better ones. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's only 24 episodes. I don't know where it's streaming, but you can find it pretty easily. So yeah, give it a go. It was a fun little watch. So let's move on.
Alright, that was a decent little watch. We're going to put it right there. And you get a decent 6. That was a decent, fun watch. Alright, down to 16. Let's see who's next. 8. What is 8? Komi-san! Oh boy, here we go. This is one of the big ones from the season. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I got through about 7 episodes of Komi-san. I wish I liked this more, but I was just getting bored with it by the end. I was literally debating whether I should drop it or not, and I'm like, if I'm at the stage where I'm debating it, I should just drop it. Had a pretty strong start. Fucking gorgeous animation. This might be the best looking show that OLM has made, at least to my knowledge. And it's really strong use of visual gags. The I was actually kind of surprised by how active the visual side was. I was kind of expecting just Sakuga and cool stills and stuff, but there's actually a lot of cool cinematic elements behind this, especially in terms of how the comedy is structured. And it's got some cool layouts, some cool ways of conveying information. A lot of like not I mean, it makes sense for this kind of show, but there's a lot of non-verbal information going around. And I like the main cast well enough. Tadano is just this nice, cool dude. Komi, can't communicate, obviously, hence the title. And so watching her try to figure out how to connect with other people was fun. Najimi, probably my favorite character just because they're so excitable and gender is a fuck. But the rest of the cast is kind of shit. Like there's so many gags, like there's so many gag characters where it's just like this is the character's gag and that is their entire personality, and it gets really fucking weird. Like this weird off-putting shit. Like this one girl thinks that she wants to be like Komi's dog, and she acts like a dog. It's fucking weird. This other yandere girl who's obsessed with Komi, it's so fucking weird. And it just grinds those fucking jokes into the dirt over and over and over again, and to a point where it just becomes nauseating. And by the end of it, I was just feeling, well, by around episode 6 or 7, I was just burnt out. Really, this is around the point where I kind of dropped it in the manga, too. Yeah, plot twist, this is another one where I dropped the manga and hoped the anime would be good, but, it was not. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this one. I hate some of it. I hate the dumb gags, but if I were to finish this, it'd probably be like a 5 or so, somewhere in there. But yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time finishing the second half of the series. So let's move on.
All right, Komi-san coming off the list. We're down to 15 shows. Not much time left in the day. Let's see how much I can do for the rest of the night. 15. Pompo the Cinephile. We hit a movie. Alright. I think that's the only movie on this list. So, yeah. I'm excited to see what this is about, aside from film. Let's give it a go.
Fuck me. I knew I was gonna like this movie, but I didn't think I would like it that much. Holy shit. I'll just say it now, that's top 5 for the year. That was a fucking incredible movie. Pompo the Cinephile. I love it. The big shocker, Ember likes the movie about making movies. He likes his pretentious shit again. I don't give a fuck. That was fucking awesome. Okay, so where the fuck do I start with this one? I guess with what I just said. I have a very hard tendency towards art that is about art, or making art. And that is exactly what this film is about. It's about basically an assistant to a producer getting his own film and just running with that concept. And this film fucking runs. Let me tell you, the pacing in this film, it does not fucking stop at all. Like, it has its moments where it, like, it has, like, 1 or 2 moments where it, like, slows down just a little bit to let you get the emotion in. But otherwise, this film is a fucking sprint. And it is just absolutely captivating the entire time. Kind of embodies this concept that one of the characters in the film, the Pompo, who's basically a producer in the film, she doesn't like making movies over 90 minutes. She likes them compact. She likes the audience's attention to stay right there. And this movie is like about 90 minutes. I think without the credits, yeah, I think it's almost 90 minutes on the dot. So that's kind of clever. Loved all the fucking characters in this. There's a really nice balance of like different levels of experience in different industries and stuff. That's another thing I can jump into right now, the fucking voice acting. Normally, this is just like my Itaten Deities talk from a couple months ago, but where I'm just fucking scattered all over the place. But the voice acting, normally I hate when anime like deliberately pick people who have never voice acted for anime before because they sound very different from other anime voice actors, because anime has a particular acting style. It's not the same kind of acting as live action acting, so the voice sounds a lot different for anime characters. And normally I hate when they deliberately pick characters to sound different, but it actually worked really well thematically here. We have Jean, our main character, basically a brand new director, and then Madeline Woodward, our lead actress, who's gotten her first role ever, and both of them have voice artists who have never done anime before. Meanwhile, the rest of the main cast is filled with like the biggest fucking names out there. Pompo's voiced by Konomi Kohara, I think, who voiced Chika in Kaguya-sama. You have Ai Kakuma as another actress in this. I don't think her voice worked quite as well for it. I would have picked maybe Maria Issei, maybe. But still, she's definitely an experienced actress, and you can tell in the work. Fucking Akio Otsuka plays a veteran movie star who's like plays opposite Natalie's character, so you really hear the vocal difference there. I mean, it's fucking Akio Otsuka, the dude. So it actually worked really well in like conveying the gap in experience between these different characters, and I fucking loved it. Yeah, and but I think I'll just dive into what I liked the most about this film, is that it hits on something that I've been fascinated with a lot lately. Not just in the media I consume, but in how I make my own shit. And it's this concept of what gets discarded, what gets left behind in pursuit of your art. Almost complete tangent, but if you listen to any of the songs by Mori Calliope, the VTuber, there's a couple tracks that are kind of like that with her. In particular, End of a Life, one of her more recent tracks, that and Cursed Night too. Basically her slow tracks where she really gets more introspective and emotional. It's just reflecting on the things that you've had to give up in your life to pursue your art. Endless Jest does it a lot too, or not a lot, but he's touched on it a bit. And it's a issue with my personal life that I have been grappling with for the past year or so. Just how much of life do you want to sacrifice in order to make your art? Now, it's questionable whether this film comes out with a healthy view on it, but it certainly makes its fucking case. I will give it that. That would probably be my one minor... Well, I have two very minor critiques of the film. That's one of them, is that it's not a very healthy message, but it is certainly a message, and I can't say that I don't live it out myself sometimes. And my other minor gripe with it is this is very much a more idealized version of the film industry, a very aspirational kind of like inspirational kind of take on it. There are definitely a few moments where I would go, oh, this would not fucking happen at all. But you get so swept up in the hype of it all that you kind of just be like, well, maybe it could. In a very slim circumstance, it could. Weirder shit has happened in the film industry. In particular, some of the stuff regarding the bank and investing in the film, I thought was just a little bit fantastical. But the way they incorporate public feedback into that scene near the end, where they're basically trying to secure funding for additional shooting for the film, the way they incorporate public feedback and just how the general world internet audience, or just general audience in general, perceives film and filmmaking, that was a really interesting concept. And that was another thing. I was waiting the whole movie, because there's basically this character who works at a bank who like fucking hates his life and like just hates his job and shit. And eventually he went to high school with the main character, and seeing him really go all in on this film made him like finally go all in on something himself. And I was waiting like the whole movie for him to actually like have his character moment, because it like takes like over 2/3 of the movie to get to that point. And then it hits, and it's fucking great. For the gripes that I have with that investment scene, there's like a weird documentary publicity stunt that they pull in the middle of it, and that was the moment where in my head the score for this movie clicked up a whole point. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. God, I fucking love this movie so much. There's so much, just like the director character says, just like Gene says, he wants a film that people can empathize with, a film that people can see themselves in. I see an inordinate amount of myself in this film, across all spectrums of quality, of good and bad parts and such. And that was the narrative for this film is just fucking amazing, and the visuals fucking match it too. There are so many awesome cuts and just interesting transitions for stuff. Just the way that it actually tries to be filmic, cinematic, I guess would be the word. It really goes all in on that. And I guess I can't even call this a critique, because it's totally unfair of me to ask this, but the shots where they're filming like the stuff like the fake movie inside this movie, like the shots that they pick still kind of look like anime shots as opposed to live action shots. This is how fucking nitpicky I have to be with this movie in order to find a negative about it. That is how down the rabbit hole I have gone with this fucking film. That is how deep into my brain it has gotten. That is the critique that I have. But aside from that, the film is fucking visually incredible. There's so much incredible animation, fantastic shot composition and lighting, and love the fucking character designs. Everything worked so well about this film. I fucking love this movie. One of the best anime of last year. Now let's go to the list to prove it.
Alright, after much deliberation, I figured out where to put it. We're going to put it in the number 2 spot. To be honest, I knew after I finished it wasn't going to be number 1 per se, but goddamn if that was not a fucking phenomenal movie. And just to show you how close it was. Like, here's my master list. Here's Pompo right here. And then Shirobaka movies right here. So, yeah, this was a fucking phenomenal movie. Go watch this shit. I loved it. Anyway, moving on. We're down to 14 shows now, it looks like. So, who's the next lucky winner? 11. Banished from the Heroes Party. Okay, I've seen some stuff from this one that looked pretty cool. Hopefully it's good. Let's check it out.
Alright, I got through about a little over 4 episodes of Banished from the Heroes Party. I really wanted to like this one. I really did, because the concept is so fucking strong, but the writing and the animation are so fucking weak. Like, basically the premise of this one is, dude stops being in the heroes party and goes off, just fucks off to the boonies to run an apothecary. And this warrior lady that he befriended on a previous adventure basically just wants to ride his dick the entire time, and then a romance blossoms from there. There is something very telling about the fact that this is part of a much larger trend of protagonists leaving the adventurer's life to take it slow, and just not force themselves to be hyper productive in society and just to do whatever they want to do, which, considering Japan, might be a serious issue that needs to be looked at on a societal level. And that's one of the things that I was interested in seeing from this series, just how that plays out. Unfortunately, the writing is really bad. Like, most of it is exposition, and not interesting exposition. It's a lot of world building that doesn't matter, and a lot of character interactions that don't really feel good. Now, I will say, when our main character, Red, interacts with, like, the townspeople, there's actually, like, a good rapport that he has with them. You can actually feel like he's been friends with these people, and he cares about them. When he interacts with the love interest, though, Rit, there is no fucking chemistry there whatsoever. Even though she is just constantly just so obviously in love with him. She's dick riding this dude so fucking hard. But they have no chemistry whatsoever, and the story is basically forcing them to be together. And see, this, like, has a lot of things that on a concept level, it has a lot of stuff that I want in my anime. It has a romance that I know ends up going somewhere later because I saw other people on Twitter watching it. It has an interesting concept about work and productivity. It's not an isekai. I'm kidding. But this one's actually not an isekai. It's actually just a regular high fantasy series, but it uses, like, game mechanics, sort of. Very loosely uses game mechanics. But none of it clicks in a way that feels interesting or engaging. And the show also looks like fucking ass. This is just some bottom barrel shit that just does not look good. Even the voice acting is kind of not great. It's way too active for the animation that it's paired with. And I also hate Reed's voice actress. I don't know who she is, but I hate the performance that she's giving here. Yeah, so really wanted to like this one, but I think we got to move on. So let's move on.